Good stuff. Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Anderson, and I'm with FranNet. I am here with my colleague, Blair Nickel, if you want to say hi. And we have noticed some very popular themes here in the workforce, with a lot of people really just wanting to explore more options, wanting to be less dependent on corporate. And we have put together a session here where you can entertain and get informed on a lot of different options. And what's beautiful about this session is we're going to talk about, really focus on 6 different brands that are under one parent company. And we've got some fantastic representatives here that are going to give us an overview. I mean, Eric, Lydia, and Mike, you got a lot of work to do in the next 30 minutes to educate us on 6 brands. And for the latter half of this session, we are going to have a panel discussion with some business owners that own franchises within this parent company. And attendees, you can ask them any questions you want. It's a great opportunity to really hear from the horse's mouth, people that have firsthand experience with this. So Eric, Lydia, and Mike, if you guys want to introduce yourselves, and I'll hand it over to you.
Great, thank you. I guess I'll start. Hello, everybody. Thanks very much for your time and attention, whether in person, virtually now, or whether you're watching this as a recording. Eric Wexler, I'm the Chief Development Officer at Premium Service Brands, which essentially means that my role is to make sure that candidates are well guided through the discovery process. So I support Lydia and Mike and several other of our colleagues in our department. And that's me, Eric Wexler. Thanks for joining us. Lydia?
Yes, so I'm Lydia O'Leary. I'm the VP of Development for Rubbish Works, which is the newest acquisition for Premium Service Brands, which we'll talk about more, full service junk removal. So my role is to take candidates primarily just through Rubbish Works, and I focus on that brand and educate them and get them in touch with our franchisees to learn more about the opportunity.
And I am Mike Oberholzer. Been in franchise development for 15 or 16 years, roughly. I lead the Handyman Pro and Made Right brands, and can't wait to talk to you more in depth about that.
And I want to just jump in for a second, because one thing I failed to mention is what we're focusing on here today is we're focusing on some service brands. Now, we're here to provide you with a lot of different options and to really lift the veil so you can see what types of franchises are available out there. Realistically speaking, you may, but you probably won't walk away from this 1-hour session saying, I found the right franchise for me. This is an opportunity to get educated and to get informed, and we're just providing some really solid examples. So Eric, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. So go ahead. I guess I'll go ahead and share my screen now. I've got some slides. We have some slides, but I don't want the slides to be very distracting to you all that are watching this. I certainly think I can speak for Lydia and Mike as well, and probably for Emily and Blair as well. Having a conversation about these considerations, about these businesses, is much more enjoyable, and I think that you'll have more of that in the second half of this discussion with some of the franchisees that are joining us. So we will present, of course, because it's not in a conversational format at this point, which is ultimately less productive. Certainly the discovery process itself is a conversation. And so I'm going to spend a good bit of time talking about that.
And it's a great way to provide context for people to kind of get their head around the various options for the more conversational portion of today.
Yep, absolutely. So you guys can see my screen, Emily?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so these are our brands. We actually have 7 brands, even though we just said we're really only going to represent 6 today. We can talk about the 7th a bit as well. Premium Service Brands. Some of what I say may be out of context, depending on how much diligence you've already conducted into considering franchise ownership, business ownership through franchising. But still, I'll kind of lay a good bit out there. So we are a franchisor, and I distinguish that because there are a lot of groups out there that represent franchise organizations that might present multiple franchise opportunities that aren't necessarily franchisors. We are a franchisor. So even though a candidate is going to spend the majority of their time determining if one of our businesses is the business by which they can achieve their objectives, that time is going to be spent with Lydia and Mike and our colleagues in franchise development. One of the things that you'll clearly come to determine with a high level of confidence is the depth of the support and the infrastructure that we as a franchise will provide you. So once a candidate goes through the discovery process and becomes a franchisee, they're still with us. Not with us specifically, with people that are far better at what they do, have a far greater expertise in the subject matter. Mike and Lydia and myself, we really have an easier job of just regurgitating information about our model that we learn from the experts that support you. So a little bit of a history on premium service brands. Our founder, Paul Flick, our founder and CEO, who's still here every day, he runs the business, a young guy in his young 50s. He founded 360 Painting about 15 years ago as ultimately now as our flagship brand. And he went on to found 2 other of our brands, and we acquired 4 of the 7 brands. They were each of the acquisitions, which if you're interested and have some questions for, we can talk about, but we deliberately target smaller businesses, smaller brands, because we want to be able to very competently integrate them into our culture and our system as a whole. One of the very clear objectives, and a unique objective within franchising, really, at least we execute it with a unique effectiveness, is to offer franchisees not just the opportunity to achieve their objectives with one of our individual brands, and any of our individual brands, when executed properly, is designed by way of the territory size and just the model in general is designed to build a strong business and allow a franchisee to benefit from a healthy 6-figure income, and they can scale that individual brand to a very, very high level, really probably higher than anybody watching this would even imagine is possible. But in addition to each individual brand having that opportunity, what Premium Service Brands does uniquely is a franchisee of 360 Painting, as they grow their business, and they're already engaged with customers. They've incurred a cost of acquisition. They've built an infrastructure to help them provide the service. You're there painting a house or cleaning a house or removing the rubbish from a home, and you see the homeowners using other services or the business owners using other services. Scaling vertically by adding other services, doing something that we refer to as owning the home, is something that Premium Service Brands offers franchisees. Again, you don't have to go about that. You can have a nice, long tenured, successful business ownership in one of our brands. At some point, you can come back and say, you know what, while I'm out there, I already have this customer. I saw the cleaning service they're using leaving the house. I should be the one providing them their home cleaning services. I should be the one that's taking care of their broken garage door, right? So we offer an opportunity to scale, to stack multiple services and scale that way. That's unique in franchising, and that's something we could spend more time talking about. So again, before we get into the individual brands, even just briefly, I want to talk about something that Emily and Blair probably already given you some context on, and that's the discovery process. There's nothing, as Emily said a few minutes ago, that you're going to learn today. It's highly unlikely that there's anything you're going to learn today that's going to have you decide that's the business for me. You might say that's the business I'm interested in. That's what I really want to learn more about. But there's such a depth to the information that you need to gather to have not just the confidence, but a high level of competence in determining that a business is right for you. So the discovery process is very detailed, is my point. In our discovery process, and probably similar to the other businesses that Emily or Blair would be guiding you through your investigation on, has 3 phases. The whole purpose of the discovery process, quite obviously, I'm sure, is to help you determine, again, with confidence, like making projections and doing a tremendous amount of diligence, that this is the right business for you. That's the obvious purpose of it. It's got 3 phases to it. The first phase is an information flow. And the information flow is the most detailed part of the process. And the information flow, the first phase, is really broken into 3 considerations. And these are 3 considerations that apply to really just about any business, franchising or otherwise, services or otherwise, manufacturing, retail. It's really the same considerations. The first consideration, this is in the first phase of the discovery process, the information flow, is how do you initiate revenue? how do you get customers? What's the marketing? And beyond the marketing, the process of converting that marketing into a customer. Customer acquisition is something you'll learn about. It's an expertise of ours as a franchisor, as successful business operators. The second third of the business, still in the information flow part of the discovery process, is operational execution. So now you have a customer. How do you provide the service that the customer is buying from you in a way that satisfies them, more than satisfies them, in a way that has them refer you to their neighbors or use the service in a recurring way? You get a customer acquisition, you provide the service, operational execution through proper labor management, through all the technical aspects of whichever service you're providing. Those are the first two of three parts of the business. The third part of the business is the unit economics. What does it cost me what's the investment to acquire a customer? What does it cost me to provide the service in labor and in supplies? And what are the fees that that we as the franchisor collect in order to provide you all this back-end support and evolution in the business model? So how do you get customers? How do you provide the service to the customers? And how do you optimize your profitability? That's the first phase of the discovery process. The whole purpose really of that first phase is to prepare you for the second phase. The second phase is validation. And validation is communicating with existing franchisees to understand what their experience has been, to communicate with, and we facilitate all of this for you, to communicate with others on the team, our CEO, our COO, the operational VPs of the brand, the marketing department, etc. That's validation, so that you can take what we show you through the first part of the discovery process and you can validate it. The final third of the three phases is a discovery day and ultimately a decision, where you come into our office, which is in Charlottesville, Virginia, by the way, beautiful Charlottesville, Virginia, and you meet us and you see our facilities and you learn more, all the more. In addition to all the detail you learn through the first two phases of the discovery process, you get to see it, touch it, feel it. And then soon thereafter, most often within days thereafter, you know whether these are the right businesses for you, which of our businesses is right for you. And then you become a franchisee and boom, that's where the fun really begins. So there's a bit about our discovery process. The other thing that I'll say, and then we'll click into the brands individually, is, and this again applies to so much of what Emily and Blair would guide you through. It's highly unlikely that anybody that we'd be particularly excited about to have as a franchisee, it's highly unlikely that any of the franchisees that we currently have, we have a couple of hundred, ever considered residential cleaning, or ever considered junk removal, or ever considered a handyman business. It's not what people wake up. Most of our franchisees, and you don't have to have had, to have been in high level management in the corporate world, that many of our franchisees have. You don't have to have an MBA or any particular level of education, though plenty of our franchisees do. We're not looking for technicians. We're looking for folks that are going to build and scale a big business. And again, most folks are attracted to franchising initially because of the restaurant that they know, or because of something that maybe doesn't make it the right business for them. It's a hobby or something they enjoy, as opposed to providing a service that scales. So in-home services, if I can click this slide, there we go. Whether residential or commercial, of course, it's kind of a maybe contradictory to say commercial home services, but services like this that we provide contribute to a $500 billion industry. And that's a number that's growing all the time. I noticed Emily had this in her introduction email, that home services are more and more popular. I've been in the home service industry through franchising for more than 20 years. I'd argue it's always been popular, but I will tell you that through the pandemic and other things that happen in life, people become more and more aware and appreciative of the opportunity in home services. Whether people don't want to do, I often say the commodity that we sell through each of our brands, or many of them at least, is time. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of things that we do that homeowners can do themselves, but they may not do it particularly well. They don't have the expertise. They may not want to do it. they don't want to invest the time to do it. They'd rather pay somebody else because their time is valuable, whether it's time with their family, whether it's time at their job, whether it's time at their church, whatever their time is, it's valuable to them otherwise. And so we provide the service. Now, home services in general is a broad industry, highly fragmented. Most of our competition, most people that provide home services are individual mom and pops, and all due respect to them, for sure. Consumers, homeowners, like everybody listening to this, and myself included, really accept almost an absurd level of service, mediocrity, when it comes to services in their home. Because what do I expect? It's just a handyman. It's just the cleaning service. It's just the guy hauling trash away. I don't have high expectation. Well, I say absurd because these are projects that are done at your home. The consumer's most valuable asset in most cases is their home. It's just where they live. It's where they raise their kids. It's where their pets are. It's where all the stuff is. Having a higher expectation of professionalism and quality and reliability and accountability and all of those things is what we want the consumer to consider. It's how we market to the consumer. It's really how we execute the service. So there's a tremendous opportunity when you can come in with not with the subject matter expertise, certainly not with how to hammer a nail properly in the handyman business, not even with how do I market and get customers or how do I manage the service on a CR. We provide all of that, of course. That's what a franchisor does. You just need to have the skill and the ability and the ambition, frankly, to execute and operate a business. So huge potential in home service. You can read this slide, of course. I could read it to you, but it's pretty clear. On the right side of the slide there, you can see a couple things that we offer that there's tremendous depth and detail to that we can go over with you through the discovery process. But for example, we have a contact center. We have a contact center that takes tens of thousands of calls a month for our franchisees. Customer acquisition calls, people replying to marketing, curious about the service, customer service calls, existing customers that we have or services that we're providing currently and the customer has a question. We're encouraging our customers adamantly to communicate with us on a regular basis. Don't accept that mediocrity. We're there to take your call and answer your questions and provide you as much information as you need. And that's a contact center. We call it it's a call center. We call it a contact center because it does much more than just simply receive calls. And again, that's a detail we can get into more down the road. That's ours. That's Premium Service Brands call center. It's not some shared service. It's here for our franchisees and for the customers and even for the employees. Okay, so there's a bit at a high level. Now we'll get into the models, and my role is to support. Well, excuse me. Actually, let me address this slide. Thank you for being kind of casual with me how I present. I mentioned before how franchisees or candidates' interest and ultimately franchisees could very well be to scale multiple services in a vertical way. I say vertical. Let me give some context to that. One of the ways to achieve scale in building a business is to add more territory and to grow horizontally. And that's a great way to grow. That's a very viable way to grow. But there's some logistical challenges and there are some costs that you incur by growing horizontally that are mitigated when you grow vertically. And so there are plenty of franchisees that I've worked with over the years that have started a business and built it to success, and then they go out and want to find another business and they find another franchisor. They go back to Emily and Blair again, and they find another business that they stack on top of it, if you will. But it's a different franchisor. It's another marketing department. It's another CRM. It's perhaps a different culture. And again, with us, we're providing very deliberately, strategically, effectively providing these shared services, the same CRM, the same marketing programs, the same everything that allows a franchisee to really leverage those things to achieve that vertical scale, mitigating many of the costs and logistical challenges of growing horizontally. So this slide just simply refers to, and I think the next slide too, to some of those things. An ideal candidate, I emphasize this, I'll slide right past this slide for you. I'll talk about it, I guess, briefly. I said already, we want business owners and not technicians. I can't emphasize that enough. We don't even want to really take a technician, somebody who's interested in being a technician through the discovery process. They're not going to build a big enough business. Our business model is to enjoy a benefit from the scale the business that you build through royalties. We want you to build a really big business. It's who we're recruiting, and it's how our business model as a franchisor works, right? So we don't want someone who wants to be a tech and satisfied with having a job. We want someone who wants to build a big business. Obviously, you have to appreciate and embrace the home service model. Pioneers and trailblazers, the reason we put that, and this won't always be the case necessarily, at some point down the road, we're not going to want franchisees that are interested in being particularly entrepreneurial or particularly creative on their own. We're still growing and evolving in an exciting way as a franchisor. One of the things that we do as a franchisor is we aggregate experiences of franchisees. As franchisees experience a success, we systematize it so that everyone can benefit. As franchisees experience challenges and failures, we recognize that and we build systems and practices to mitigate those things, right? We're still in the process in an exciting way of, because we don't have 1,000 franchisees, we have a couple hundred, of scaling and learning that way. So to some degree, we want our franchisees to be excited by the notion of really contributing, having their experience contribute to our growth. Obviously, customer service and the rest of these I'll leave be because I realize that I'm rambling on, leaving very little time for our brands. Now, I do not have an absolute expertise in our brands individually, not even as much as Mike and Lydia do. My role at this point is at a higher level. So I'll just touch upon this. Our flagship brand, 360 Painting. This is certainly this is our largest brand. This is the brand that we enjoy the most amount of infrastructure with, and it is residential and light commercial painting. We provide the service in a way that the consumer has likely not experienced. A high level of customer service, high level of quality. The biggest thing I'll highlight before I click from this slide is a partnership that we have with Sherwin-Williams. I can't take enough time to emphasize the value and the importance of that relationship. Sherwin-Williams is a tremendous national partner with us. It certainly helps us from a product standpoint, most obviously. It absolutely helps us from a customer acquisition standpoint because plenty of people go into a paint store not really knowing how maybe they'll paint themselves. We benefit from that. And it benefits us from a labor consideration too, because a lot of the Sherwin-Williams customers are small contractors that we can establish a relationship with and have them do the labor for us, of course. The other brand that I'll mention a bit about is ProLift Garage Doors. This is our fastest growing brand currently. We take one big step back here for just another moment. Our brands fall into 3 categories, essentially, and there's crossover between brands. One is a project-based service, which 360 Painting is. That's one of the 3 categories. Another category is an emergency-based service, which ProLift Garage Doors is, and it can cross over into a project too. But more often than not, this is my garage door is broken. I can't get to work. I can't get the kids to school. I can't get to the grocery store. So this is a need. There are very few professionally run garage door repair or even garage door installation companies. ProLift is unique that way. And so it is a huge opportunity. I highly encourage anyone that's interested in the home service space to be interested in ProLift. It's a great brand. Now, Mike, you don't have to rush. You can take a few minutes for sure, but Mike Oberholzer is the Vice President of Development for Handyman Pro, and he'll take a few minutes and tell you what's great about that brand.
All right, well, thanks. And then when does Blake get to talk about it? Because
we'll have time for Blake. I just realized how much time I took. Goodness gracious.
No, that's good. I just want to make sure that our Handyman Pro franchisee actually has a chance.
Yeah,
I'm sure
essentially the second half of this will be Blake's focus.
Great, awesome. And it'll be great because this is the idea of exploring a franchise, and then you get into that point in the process of validation and talking to franchisees. So hopefully everything I say, Blake will agree with at some point when he gets to talk. And if not, he can explain, he can say differently. But anyway, so a couple of things that I want to break down. There's other handyman businesses in the space, and it's fine. You will see a theme amongst all of our brands that one of those things is that we simplify the model, right? As much as possible, right? There's plenty of businesses out there that can focus on these bigger projects, the kitchen remodeling, the basement refinishing, the things of that nature. Handyman Pro is focused more on smaller jobs, and when you're talking to homeowners, especially if we have homeowners on here that are listening as exploring franchises, I know for me it certainly resonates even more than I'm only going to do a handful of big projects in my life, in my home, maybe, but I need help with the smaller things. I need help with the hole in the drywall, the changing the light bulb in the vaulted foyer that I can't reach, or the deck repair, or whatever the case might be. And that is more what we want to focus on. You know, ideally, in a perfect world, you have one of your handyman on your staff that is, you know, at one home all day, just knocking out a honey-do list, so to speak, for lack of a better term, right? That punch list of things, you know, minimizing the drive time, you know, establishing a rapport with that homeowner. Nice. Speaking of that, this is very much a repeat business, right? These homeowners are going to be in their home frequently. To promote that, we're actually the only handyman franchise out there that has a subscription-based model as a potential revenue stream built into our system. We call it the Fix It plan, and there's various levels of that. The lowest level, which is perfectly fine, is a $149 a month. A homeowner can get 2 hours of handyman service a month. So I think it's one of those things. Of course, you're establishing a long-term relationship with that customer. It can be something that maybe, you know, I think about myself. I recently moved, you know, 90 minutes away from my mom, and things I used to go over there to do. So I dare I say it could potentially touch on the senior care space, right? I pay $149 a month so that a loved one can pick up the phone once a month and just get a list of things done around the house that maybe I used to do. One of the things that is certainly a differentiator with Handyman Pro as opposed to, you know, other brands that are out there. And actually, all of our premium service brands, we have a relationship with the Home Depot, but the Handyman Pro business benefits from that relationship the most. And what that relationship is that Home Depot has a locked invitation-only contractor list that when we launch in that market, they then unlock that list and they bump us to the top of it. And so that when someone goes, and now Home Depot provides some services, but there's a lot of things that they don't do. And those things that they don't do, they refer to our franchisee in that market. So if someone goes in there and buys a ceiling fan and says, you know, can you help me put that in? They say no, but you can call, you know, Handyman Pro of Philadelphia and they'll take care of it for you. So that relationship, it's mutually beneficial. They actually will become a preferred material supplier for our franchisee, and in turn, every dollar they spend, they earn points, and then those points are used for the lead flow that comes to them. So just really having that attachment to a bigger brand that's so synonymous with home improvement, I think is pretty neat. I even think sometimes when I look at the Handyman Pro logo, it almost resembles, you know, kind of a Home Depot type logo. So there's like a visual similarity too with that. I want to go back a little bit and talk about when I say simplifying the model. I'm not going to go too far into it, but one of the things that we're focusing on smaller projects. Not that we can't do the bigger projects, and that's an evolution of the business, right? We want you to take on all the jobs that you possibly can. But in a perfect world, that is by focusing on smaller projects, I think you open up the talent pool a little more, right? So we don't only need, you know, master skilled multi-tradesmen as handyman on the team. I think they're great to have, and you absolutely will. But, you know, it could also be, you know, a handy person, a semi-retired superintendent of an apartment building, you know, younger guy who's comfortable on a ladder and a staple gun and a hammer and has some skills, and we can actually train them on more of the popular items, the vinyl plank flooring installations, drywall installation. We could put them through learning modules to teach them some of these things. So where it will be beneficial to have kind of like an A tech, a B tech, and a C tech, let's say, they don't all have to be A tech, and that really makes it a little easier to recruit. Recruiting tends to be one of those things that are challenged, and I'll talk about that too in for Made Right too. But every business has challenges, right? And it kind of depends on you as exploring this business, what challenges you're willing to accept as you go into business for yourself. You know, I'll talk about Made Right here in a little bit, and that's a bigger staff.
And Michael,
Handyman Pro.
want to make sure that we've got time for our panelists. We've got a couple more brands to
Oh
address.
shoot! Sorry, I'm just going on and on and on
All
here.
right.
All right. Yeah, go ahead. We'll move on. So let's talk about Made
It's
Right.
not easy, Emily. I try to keep myself quiet too. We're very excited about all of our brands.
I'm guilty of the same thing.
So,
I hear you.
yeah,
I'll
I'll
get
just reiterate that there's a ton of detail that we're happy to share with you candidates down the road. So we'll be brief on this, and just call us through Emily and through Blair for more detail, of course.
It's hard to start talking about something when you have so much passion about it, but
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I apologize. Okay. Made Right. Everybody needs it. I don't care if you're a homeowner, a renter, you know, if you live in some sort of structure, you're a potential customer, which is great. And that's I think really makes it special, right? The fact that 80% of our customers are on a recurring format. Either it's every week, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. That other 20% is a one-time clean out for a move in or a move out situation. We have, you know, just for some of the metrics, our average charge is average job size is $150, right? So if you do some math, you can quickly determine that one crew is capable of doing roughly $9,000 a month in revenue. So you scale your business with adding people. It's a very easy trackable thing to manage, right? If I want $1 million business, I know that I need 10 crews, which is 20 people and maybe a customer service rep. So now you're managing a bigger staff. And I go back to talking about that challenge that you're willing to accept as part of business ownership. Certainly building a bigger team, if you like that, if you've done that in the past, if you want to continue to do that, the residential cleaning business is a great fit. I will just say, when we're talking about recruiting, the people that we're bringing in, and I'll be done with this, is the people that we're hiring to do this work fall under a category that would also be looking at a job in a quick service restaurant or a grocery store or retail. But we're giving them an opportunity to live more of a kind of a better quality of life. 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. You're generally paying them $2 or $3 an hour more than what they would make in one of those jobs. You're giving them a career path to follow. You can start out as an hourly cleaner, move up to a crew lead, a territory manager, a sales manager. So anyway, it's a really compelling offer from an employer standpoint for you as a franchisee, because you can really add value to these people's lives, and of course, ultimately help you grow your business. So,
and the consumer consumes it Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. It's not weekends, it's not nights, and it's recurring in its value. So, all right. Well, let's give Lydia a few minutes on Rubbish Works, and then we may just not even touch too much on Kitchen Wise and get right to the panel.
Yeah, I will breeze through this. So Rubbish Works is full service, on-demand junk removal and dumpster rental. Everyone has junk, whether it's in their garage, whether it's in their basement, in the backyards. So there is obviously a need for it. It's a $10 billion industry, but it's part of the home service $500 billion industry. And we're looking for people who want to run this either as an executive model or semi-absentee. We do not want franchisees on the truck. But the goal is to start with the on-demand junk removal side and then expand into dumpster rental. It is a simple service because you're training your employees how to lift properly and how to drive safely. So that means your labor pool is wide open and you're teaching them how to provide that service in the way that they're going to choose you versus some competitors. So that is Rubbish Works. I will let our franchisees take over. So they're the stars of the show here and you'll get to know them.
There's a whole lot more to learn about us in general. So obviously through Blair and Emily, we'll go through a tremendous amount of detail, our websites, because there's a couple of brands that we didn't touch upon, but good broad overview. And I'll mute myself and give it right back to you, Emily. Thank you for everybody for your attention.
No, that's great. Eric, if you could stop this screen share so we can see our panelists' faces. Yeah, it was pretty bold, frankly, for us to take this on, to have so many people and so much information in such a short period of time. So thanks everybody for jumping in. My no offense to Lydia, Mike, and Eric, but my favorite portion is always hearing from the business owners. So I would like to first acknowledge and thank Blake Taylor and Sharon Strange for joining us today, who each own a franchise within Premium Service Brands. So Blake and Sharon, if you could be sure to unmute yourself, and Blake, we'll start with you. Would you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you were doing prior to business ownership and what business you own now?
Sure. Thanks, Emily. Yeah, I am the owner of Handyman Pro in Salt Lake City, Utah. I've been up and running for a little over 2 months now. And before this, for the last 10 years, I've been in the finance and accounting world. I started my career as an accountant and then moved into financial analytics, and was even with a company that just went public, about the week I left to start this franchise. And so it was a big career change for me, and it's just been fantastic to be a small business owner.
Oh, congratulations. 2 months in?
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you. And Sharon, will you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background in your current business?
Sure. So we are 2 years in, and kind of a similar sort of thing. Had a long career. My husband, a long career. We're partners. He's not here right this minute, but had a long career, 30 years in the ministry. And I had about 15 years of teaching biology, chemistry, and environmental science. So both of us in careers where dealing with people day-to-day basis, but we came to a point where it was, okay, what are we going to do next? And, starting in that process of where to go and what to do with everything. So this franchising journey has been amazing. And we are loving being part of Premium Service Brands.
It's great to hear. And this is an opportunity for attendees to type any questions into the chat, and we'll go ahead and relay those questions to the panelists. Or if you have any questions for the presenters, anything regarding Premium Service Brands. Until then, I'm just going to keep going. So Blake, so you had this significant career change. Did you already know that you wanted to own a business?
I did. I had been, I'd been doing the due diligence on various franchises and small businesses for probably 2 years before I pulled the trigger on Handyman Pro. And it's always been something I've wanted to do. My whole family, they're entrepreneurs, and I wanted to go a more secure, safe path, right? Which is why I got into accounting. And pretty quickly, I just hated every moment of it. And, the corporate lifestyle was killing me. And starting a small business and being kind of out on my own and has been revitalizing. It's been exciting. It's been fun to wake up in the morning and excited to go into work, and yeah, so it's been a lot of fun, but it was a long journey. It was about 2 years of doing due diligence and looking at businesses that were for sale, looking at businesses that I may want to start up, and talking to different franchises. Took a long time to land here.
And so what made you decide on the brand that you did?
Well, ultimately, it was several things, right? I mean, firstly, I really liked that Premium Service Brands has multiple brands that they can kind of learn from each other. They can share customers with each other. You can grow vertically, as Eric was mentioning. You can grow horizontally if you just want more territory for your existing brand. That was really enticing, and that was different from anything I'd seen elsewhere. I really liked the customer contact center. I viewed that as a really good way to keep my startup costs low and not having to hire somebody in the office to man a phone. And eventually I'll get there. I'm working on it right now, but that really helped the transition, having that infrastructure behind me. And, the leadership team there at Premium Service Brands has been fantastic to work with. I felt like they really allow me and encourage me to be entrepreneurial, where quite frankly, a lot of other franchises, they kind of try to tamp that down a little bit. And, they're there to give me as much support as I want, but I can also kind of do things on my own a little bit too, and just kind of check in with them. So it's been nice to have, I can pick how much support I want from them, and they're there for it. They're not forcing their ideas down my throat onto my business, which has been a good relationship. And I could see that right from the very beginning, right from, day one of, discovery and all that these guys are going to let me run a business, and they'll be there to support me as much as I need it.
Yeah, it's such a great feeling to know that there are other people that have your back in your business. Yeah. And Sharon, tell us about, so you own a business, 360 Painting, is that right, with your husband?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. You.
And so had you ever worked together prior?
We had not worked together, and that was a little bit of a challenge, but it was really one of the reasons why we chose to go into franchising, is because we both are very hard workers, and we were just going our directions more and more and more, and just didn't see as much of each other. And so now we see each other all the time, which actually is really good. And then if it's a little too much, I just send him out to go do another job, and just kidding. No, it's been a great transition for us as a couple.
There's a question in the chat, and Sharon, we'll start with you. What effect has owning your business had on your personal life and your financial life?
Okay, so both of them has been very positive. And one, just realizing how much control I have over my own schedule now. And that was actually a really big transition for me, because I, teaching school for such a long period of time, I'm used to, here's all your deadlines, here's this, and the constraint. Whereas now I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to stroll into work, which happens to be in a room upstairs in my house. It's great. I'm just, scroll in when I'm ready to get working, or if I have something else, I don't feel, since it's in my house, I don't feel bad about, staying late at work. So, but because we do have it in a separate location, it's got its own parameters. And so we can have that, this is work, and then the rest of the house is my house. So we have those nice defined parameters around it. And I'm having that as well, and not just want to say real quick, one of the things, and this wasn't quite the question, but that we were looking when we first started at a brick and mortar. And I was convinced that was how we were going to go with everything. And coming across Premium Service Brands was life-changing, to have a service industry that we could have out of our home and not have the overhead cost of everything that went with products, and even, services, at a different level, where you had to go somewhere. It was fantastic. So I love this model.
Nice. And Blake, what about you? I'll repeat the question. What effect has owning your business had on your personal life and your financial life?
So I'll mention again, for my personal life, it's made a world of difference just with how happy I am, right? I was miserable in the corporate environment, and my wife, my kids have seen it. I'm more energetic. I'm happier. I get up in the morning. I'm not just dreading, dragging my feet into work every day. I actually enjoy what I do, and I feel like I'm making a difference in people's lives and in people's homes. And that makes all the difference in the world to just how I feel about my job and how I feel about myself. Financially, like I said, I've only been up and running for about 2 months. So I see the scalability there, and I basically can grow as fast as I can hire good people. There's so much work to be done in the handyman space that I actually turn away a lot more work than I care to admit to most people, because I just haven't found the right people to hire and bring on. And that's the hardest part about this job, is just hiring good people. I do expect that within another 2 or 3 months, I'll probably have replaced the salary that I lost leaving my corporate job. And which is a lot faster than I expected to do it at the outset. I thought it was going to be a year or two before I get back there. But the earning potential is a lot better in business ownership than it is in the corporate world. At least unless you're the 1% that makes it to the top echelon of a C-suite, it's just, I'll make more money faster doing this, quite frankly.
Yeah, excellent. And for attendees that are sitting here and listening, and they might be at any stage of exploring business ownership, whether it's just a notion in the back of their mind, or maybe they are well into their research process. Blake and Sharon, what questions do you think they should be asking themselves as they explore this path?
Can you handle it's a different kind of stress, not having a steady paycheck, right? Being reliant on revenue from customers to feed your family. It's stressful, but the one thing I would say is find somebody who's done it. Find somebody who has started a franchise or two and talk to them about their journey. Because if you're just trying to make this decision on your own, looking at the internet, I don't think you'll ever get over that hump.
Yeah. And in your discovery process, did you speak with other franchise owners?
I did. And as I mentioned, I was on this journey for about 2 years, and I barked up the tree of maybe 10 or 15 different franchises, and even went through, the discovery day for some of them, and what's it called when you have to talk to the franchisees? I've probably talked to about 20 different franchisees. Not all of them were with premium service brands.
Sure.
And so I felt like I had a really good understanding for what life was going to look like for a franchise owner. And yeah, so that's what I'd recommend. Find people who've done it, whether you talk to someone in premium service brands, or you talk to your neighbor that runs an Applebee's, whatever it is. Talk to somebody who's been there and done it, and it'll help you understand what your journey might look like.
And Sharon, same question.
Yeah, so and it's a very similar answer. I thought that was a great answer that Blake had, that it really is about finding those other people who have done it, especially with it's something that's a different model than what you may be in currently, and to see what they've done to make those validation calls and find out, or even just somebody else that that's running a business, that you need that other, for lack of a better word, validation as to how to do this and what the process is. I will go back just a little bit on that financial answer, realizing I didn't answer all of my question from earlier.
I'm waiting for that, Sharon.
Do what?
If you're going to say what I think you're going to say.
Oh, we had the same thing about replacing our salary. And, at first we had like a little bit of money set aside, like, okay, how are we going to do this, getting started and rolling through that. And, we started out with, using some of that money, and then very quickly worked our way off of that, and have now replaced our salaries from where we were before. So we hit our goal very early on to replace our salaries with this. And that is just, That's phenomenal. That's what everybody wants to do. So, but questions to ask, just really thinking about where do you want to go with your business? How do you, you get to set the pace. Do you want it to grow quickly, or are you going to just kind of let it go out there? And we've kind of, chosen the very structured but quick growth pace. Our first full year, we had 1.2 million in revenue, and we're set for this, our second full year, to be 2 million, hopefully a little over 2 million this year.
That's what I was waiting for.
Oh. Yeah, so we just we'll hit by the end of this month the 1 million mark so far this year. So we're excited.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's great.
Another question here. Was there something else you considered besides home services or another organization? And Blake, it sounds like you certainly did. So we'll hear from both of you. Why did you pick what you picked? So Blake, you did consider other things. Were they within or outside of home services?
There was a little bit outside of home services, but early on in my search process, I identified that I wanted to be in a business that provide local services, right? I didn't want something that could be easily outsourced, something that could be, done by a large corporation in another state or another city or another country. And, I recognize, at least locally here in Utah, there's only a finite amount of land that homes can be built on. And so people are going to start investing more and more money in the existing homes that are here. Right. And so I identified pretty quickly I wanted to be part of that wave. Right. And so I did look at several other handyman franchises, several other in-home services, not necessarily working on the home, but, working in the home. And, I landed on Premium Service Brands, as I mentioned, because of several things. I feel like I clicked well with the leadership and the support team here. And the opportunity for vertical integration using the same systems, the same processes, and the same leadership team. If I want to add on a Made Right or a Rubbish Works, I can do that quite honestly, very quickly and very easily. And, the other thing I maybe didn't mention that has made a big difference after the fact is that the Handyman Pro brand is very powerful. I win jobs very often when people pull up Home Advisor or Thumbtack and they're given a list of 5 or 6 companies that they can go with. The Handyman Pro logo in and of itself lends a lot of credibility to what I'm doing. And since I just started up for 2 months, I don't have a lot of brand recognition in this area, but the logo itself and the branding and the website lend so much credibility to me that I'm winning jobs against other companies that just don't have branding that looks as good. And so, it really was a lot of different things that went into why Premium Service Brands was the right choice for me. It was kind of the several ingredients making up the secret sauce,
Excellent. Thank you. And Sharon, how about you? Was there anything you considered besides home services?
Absolutely. I was set on brick and mortar. I grew up with in a business family, and it was shoe stores. So my dad had it up, with like 20 some shoe stores. So I was just convinced, we were going to go along that pathway. And we looked at automotive, we looked at some personal care services, we looked at a number of things that were brick and mortar until we finally had somebody say, have you thought about, home services? And we came through to painting and went through a number of painting services, and Premium Service Brands just won us over because of that. Well, first, call center, Second, the technology that's able to be shared among any of the services that you want to have, whether I have 360 painting, handyman, pro, made right, you know, et cetera, I can stack those. And it's the same technology that I can use across that. And that's amazing to be able to add those on. So yes, we considered other and completely vetted through those, did the validation calls, walked through everything. It wasn't just a cursory, oh, have you thought about this? We went and with other franchisees, other businesses, and sat with them and talked about their model and their businesses. And we landed with premium service brands.
Excellent, excellent. And there is a question about what does it mean to be semi-absentee? Because I think that word came up. So this might be better addressed by Eric, Lydia, or Mike.
Sure. It's not an easy question to answer. So it's a question that has to be asked and discussed more because there is no absolute definition for it. Typically, when people think semi-absentee, they think they keep their job and they build a business additionally, or in parallel. It can be done for sure, and we support that. Each of the folks that are on this call right now are focused full time on building their businesses, and arguably, almost certainly, they'll have an opportunity to scale their business all the faster doing it full time. But plenty of people are looking for semi-absentee or semi-passive, and you can do that too. You need to be capitalized well enough to be able to afford, you need to be able to find the person or the people that you need to execute, whether it's just technicians, lead technicians, or full on general management, depending on the service and depending on the scale that you're looking to build or that you're at when that happens. So you need the capitalization, you need the ability to be able to recruit and manage that person well. Some people manage directly better, some people manage layers of management better. So you have to be able to do those things properly. Depends on the level of flexibility you have in your career. If you want to launch a business semi-absentee, but when you clock into your job at 8 a.m. and you don't clock out to 6 p.m. and there's nothing else you can focus on during the day, that's going to be a more difficult business to drive semi-absentee, as opposed to if you have some flexibility and you can contribute an hour or so during the day, whether it's to put out a proverbial fire or whatever. So semi-absentee typically means you're keeping your job while you're launching a business. We support that. It's absolutely, we have plenty of franchisees that do it that way. There's just a lot more to consider that's more circumstantial and particular to the individual.
One of the more common popular questions we get asked when we have a panel discussion with franchise owners, we've got about 2 minutes. So Blake and Sharon, any regrets?
I don't have any regrets. I'll speak.
That sounds like a no to me.
So yeah, so it's been a great journey, and it's just continuing, and every day is different and new, and you don't always know what's coming next, but it's been a great ride so far. So no regrets.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I'd say there's no regrets in the decision to buy this franchise and start it up where I am. The regrets I have are in personnel decisions, like I shouldn't have hired this guy, but that was something I knew was going to happen. I knew right from the get-go, I'm going to make mistakes. My guys are going to make mistakes, and it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve on the School of Hard Knocks, but I do it again if the opportunity came up.
And Emily, I know we want to wrap up, but maybe I can ask them a question about regrets as well. Because I commonly hear this. Is a regret, Sharon, maybe, and be honest, of course, that you didn't do this sooner?
Oh yeah, that definitely would have been great to have done sooner. So, but here we are. We're excited.
Yeah. And Blake, I assume the same for you too. That's the common regret you've probably heard in your career as well, Emily. If only I had done this sooner.
Yeah, I understand the sentiment. For me personally, my career path, I think has helped prepare me for this. And I don't know that I would have been ready for it any sooner in my career than I was, both financially and kind of as a manager and as a leader. I don't know that I would have been ready before now. But yeah, I mean, had I had the means and the experience before this, I would have loved to have started it 5 years ago. But no, I think this is the soonest I could have swung it myself.
I would have said about 5 years prior would have been great.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for your time and insights. And Blake and Sharon, just thank you for carving time out of your day as business owners to share your experience with us. It is so meaningful, and congratulations to you.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you for the platform,
Thanks
Emily.
for having us.
You bet. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.